the Orange County Historical Society. Thank you all for coming this evening. My name is Chris Jepson. I'm the current president of the Society. Wanted to make a few announcements before we get into our program tonight. First of all, if you are a member and you haven't paid up for your membership dues, now's a good chance. You can go to the back table there, and Aida at the orange table can help you out with catching up on membership. And I'll point out, membership is still a real deal compared to a lot of organizations like ours. It's $30 for individual members, $45 for your whole family, $20 for students, $25 for seniors. So I do encourage you, if you are not a member, and I see a number of new faces here tonight, do consider joining the Society. We do this every month. Okay, we take the summer off, but we do this every month with different programming about different aspects of Orange County history, and we also do a variety of other kinds of events relating to local history, and I'll touch on a few of those here in a moment. Want to kind of go quickly over some of the upcoming programs we still have that we have on the docket here. In next month, on January 11th, Nick Papaduke will be speaking about the history of Westminster, and he's the first person since the 1970s to write a book about the history of Westminster, and I think he's done a great job with it. And there's going to be he's also been heavily involved on an almost daily basis in trying to get the Westminster Historical Society's records into some kind of order that can be used by researchers. And he is finding amazing things that I don't think anybody at the Society knew they even had in some cases, and bringing those to light. And his book highlights about 200 of those images throughout it, along with a lot of good information. So I hope you will join us next month for that program. And then on February 8th, and I will just reiterate, we're always on the second Thursday of the month. So, and we meet right here. On February 8th, Bob Minty will be back to talk with us about the life of Richard Henry Dana. Now, last time Bob was here, he said he was going to speak about whaling along the Southern California coast, and he did, and it was a great program. Some of you may remember he rented a truck to bring an entire truckload of original whaling equipment, and he lined the walls of the room with that. So I don't know what he's going to do with Richard Henry Dana. Hey, I brought him in a box. I don't know, but it should be interesting. Bob always keeps us on our toes. March 14th, Paul Spitzeri, our old friend from the museum, will be here to talk about La Vida Mineral Springs up in Brea. And so that's a topic we have not done something with, and we look forward to learning more about that. May 9th, Patricia Prestonari will be here to talk about the treasures of Cal State Fullerton's archives and special collections. So, and there's some wonderful stuff there, and that is one of the less appreciated sets of collections in this day and age. I don't think as many researchers are tapping into that now as perhaps they did in the past, and so this is a good chance to shine a light on some really wonderful Orange Countyana. As for other events, and again, we're going to be announcing more about these later, but just to put them on your radar as a save the date event, we're going to be holding a birthday party for Judge Pleasance on March 30th out at Majeska Canyon out at Arden, and so that's going to be a fun event. We're going to be talking about the history of J.E. Pleasance, who was not only a founder of the Orange County Historical Society back in 1919, but even then was the old-timer that everybody went to find out what it was like in the old days. And lots of colorful stories. I always say, this guy was involved in all of the things that made the Old West, and it was all right here in Orange County. The shootouts with bandits and being attacked by packs of wolves and, running a ranch. an interesting guy. Then also, that's going to be March 30th, and on April 20th, we're going to be having our first history hike in a little while. We were going to be going to, as a hike to Flores Peak. And those of you who know about the Flores Gang and their exploits throughout California, this is an important part of that story. And this is where the bandit Juan Flores made his almost unbelievable escape from the posse there at Flores Peak. But this is going to be a good chance to hike some of Orange County's backcountry. And we're getting some strange noises out of the machine here. Okay. All right. I don't know.
Somebody's hearing aids.
Can you still hear me all right? Okay. Good. And so that's going to be April 20th. So anyway, I hope you can join us for some of these events and watch for more details as they become available. Our speaker tonight, I want to introduce him. I'll start by talking about this project that he's working on. Because a lot of us have become aware of this in recent years. The Southern California, or the SoCal, how do you say it? SoCal landmarks? Just SoCal, okay. I wasn't sure if that was just an abbreviation but the SoCal Landmarks is an ongoing photography project documenting the myriad sites, buildings, structures, monuments, and other natural and historical points of importance and interest that are considered landmarks in the 10 southern counties of California. Hear that, Los Angeles? Southern California doesn't end at your borders. Since the launch of the project in February 2020, a small dedicated group of photographers has contributed content for the project's archives, its website, SoCalLandmarks.com, and presence on 5 social media platforms. And I think, at least for me and a lot of people I know, that's where we've come to know this. We see all this beautiful photography accompanied by, well-researched text to describe what this beautiful photography is photography of. Project manager Andy Schmidt moved to Orange County in 2005. As a member of the Photographic Society of Orange County, he was involved with the Slice of Orange photography project. He later approached 2 other members of that project about organizing this project focused on historical landmarks. Already, the project has documented more than 600 landmarks, with many more to go. So with that, I would like to introduce Andy Schmidt.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Hello. Mic is still working, right? Okay, cool. Well, Chris basically said it all, and I'm here basically to show you what we have, some of the landmarks that we've archived in our project. And the reason I'm starting here is because the reason we call it SoCal Landmarks 10 counties is because of that nice straight line going across the tops of those 3 counties. And I get a lot of crap from people, especially in San Luis Obispo County, saying, no, that's not SoCal. But sorry, we went with cartography, and there's SoCal. I also included the blurb again. I didn't know Chris was going to read it. But just basically to address the whole thing about history. While I know most of you are involved with history, old history, old buildings, generations, and so on, we're involved with all kinds of different types of history: architectural history, cultural history, social history. And so that kind of widens the field, just like all 10 counties widened our scope. So it's not all historical as in, the wonders of an age past. And let's see, okay. And just a quick definition of a landmark, the classic definition, basically, you know where you are when you see it. And by gummy, when I was a kid driving down the I-5, I knew right where I was when I saw that mountain in the Anaheim Range. But landmarks have come to have an association with past events and people, and so we get a little bit of flack because people say, well, that's not a landmark, it's not 50 years old. But I'm sorry, if a landmark tells you where you are, that George Lucas museum that they're building up by up at Exposition Park is certainly already a landmark, even if it isn't done, because it's got to be one of the strangest buildings I've ever seen. And so our definition of a landmark is a little broader than, you know, something you find in the National Register or city registries and such. So we started doing these series of 31 days of back in May 2022 to basically coincide with the National Historic Preservation Month that had started, I don't know, many years ago. And so for each day of May, we presented a different landmark that had been preserved. Bring it forward to 2023, we did it again, and it was just a very popular thing for us on social media, so we started doing other 31 days of this and that features. And in August, we did 31 days of Orange County. So here we go with 31 days of Orange County. This was taken specially for the book. Like I said, we published the book. You know, we did the series in August. I went over there and I just hit it on a really nice day. Notice that the hangar doors are open. Sorry. The hangar doors are open, which I had never seen before, not in the North Hangar. You know, but it seemed like the thing, you know, other than Disneyland, it seemed like the thing to start off something for Orange County with. And this is the only thing that isn't in the book, and I think you know why. Fortunately, one of our photographers is also a drone pilot, and he likes to go fly. And so this is an older shot of the Huntington Beach Pier, as I'm sure many of you know. But I kind of like the description. It was designed to be the longest, highest, and most artistically designed solid concrete municipal pier in the world. Then storms came and wiped it out. They did it again, wiped it out, did it again. But there it is. Union Pacific Depot in Fullerton, as many of you probably know, is now an old spaghetti factory, and highly, you know, I recommend it. It was built in 1923. It was relocated in 1980 when they put together the transportation center there. It used to sit, this face of the building used to face the tracks, but they rotated it 90 degrees when they moved it, so that it's facing into the center. Another train station of a totally different type, and here's where we get into, this is not your typical historical landmark. This is an architectural landmark. And it also is a very prototypical landmark, because when you see that thing off to the side of the road, you know where you are. And everybody's favorite, the Orange County Courthouse. I did a little bit of research, and the oldest courthouse is up in Mariposa County. But, so they have to qualify this thing. It's Southern California's oldest, but we're glad we've got it, right? And we all, I'm sure most of you know what this is. You know, yeah, it's Christ Cathedral now, but it's the Crystal Cathedral. The first part of it was the Tower of Hope over here, which was designed by Richard Neutra. So that gets into our archaeological history. And I'm not going to go into the history of the whole Crystal Cathedral thing, but again, it's one of those things where you see it, you know where you are. I kind of like, I threw in the Bowers Museum because it's as much a cultural landmark. It started out basically as an Orange County museum, Orange County History Museum. But the full name of it is the George W. Bowers Memorial Museum, and that wouldn't have fit on that arch. But it is on, oh, sorry. I'll find this little red dot here eventually. It is on some tiles right here under the arch. So at least his name is there somewhere. Now we've had some arguments about the Katie Wheeler Library up in Irvine because it's a recreation of James Irvine's ranch house. However, it was built back to the exact plans of the house and has, as part of the historical park there, become a landmark in its own right. The Orange Plaza. Now, please don't correct me and tell me it's the Orange Circle. Yes, I know everybody calls it that. But if you go to the National Register of Historic Places, it's the Orange Plaza. And when they originally designed it, it was a square in the middle of the town. So every time we post a copy of this, somebody brings it up and, well, okay, fine, call it what you like. And obviously this was shot before the accident. Diego Sepulveda Adobe in Costa Mesa is one of the oldest standing buildings in Orange County. It's a cool little place, actually. And the Segerstrom family ended up actually owning it. And my wife and I happened to notice that it was going to be open on a weekend, and we went up there. And we got to talk with a lady who had lived in the Adobe. Her husband or her father worked for Segerstrom, and so they got to live in the Adobe, and she had all sorts of little stories about how they'd go out and they'd actually find Indian arrowheads out in the fields and so on.
Where is that?
It's just off of Adams and a little bit west of Harbor.
What city?
Costa Mesa.
Oh, no.
How old is it? I'm afraid somebody was going to ask me that. I have to say that it's got to be late 1800s, early 1900s.
Older than the missions?
Oh, no. Like San Juan Capistrano was founded 1775, 76. So, yeah. But it's the oldest standing, one of the oldest standing buildings. One of. That's a nice qualifier, right? Cypress College, I don't know how many of you have gone through there. Way in the back?
Yeah, so the Adobe that you were, is that the Estancia Adobe?
Yes. Yes.
So wasn't that built around the time of the, that's like an outpost sort of thing, isn't it somehow?
Okay, yeah, the Diego Sepulveda was built initially as a shelter for the people minding the cattle that belonged to the mission.
1823.
Thank you. Like I said, I was afraid somebody was going to ask me that. Okay, here we've got an architectural landmark. A lot of people don't like brutalism, but you want to talk about a really nice example of stylized brutalism, because most people, they think, anybody that's familiar with brutalism thinks of the Soviet bloc buildings, gray, terrible, horrible places. But this Texas firm, CRS, basically made a big leap forward that went into a postmodern type of thing. So it's, you know, it's a little nicer to look at than just the raw concrete that most people associate with brutalism. The whole campus, there's 5 or 6 buildings originally in this style on the campus, and then they went into a more glass, they use more glass and less concrete on following buildings. Balboa Inn, out on the Balboa Peninsula in Newport Beach, completed in 1929. This was the go-to place to stay if you weren't rocking it over at the Pavilion. Also vacation spot for the hip and happening and the elite of the time. First Baptist Church up in Yorba Linda. I've had some controversy because there's another church that competes with it as there's a church in Santa Ana that they say they're the oldest standing church, and there are other people that say this is the oldest standing church. Nonetheless, the reason we included it was more because the family of the original founders was the Nixon family, and Richard was baptized in this church. I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but the Amarigi Brothers Realty Office in Fullerton. It's a tiny little place. George and Edward were vacationing, I think it was in Westminster or somewhere, and they heard that George Fullerton was coming out for the railroads to spot out land for where the railroad go through. So they quick hustled on over to, bought 420 acres and opened up this little land office in Fullerton and talked George Fullerton into rerouting the train up through their land. And that's why the trains go through Fullerton.
Where is that?
This is, yeah, Commonwealth, yeah, right. City Hall and that area, right.
Is it near a golf course? No.
There's sports fields back behind it. Yeah. The O'Neill Museum used to be the Garcia Pryor residence. It's one of the first frame houses in San Juan Capistrano. There's a lot of adobes, as many of you are undoubtedly aware. This is one of the first wood frame buildings. It used to be behind where the El Adobe, or is it the Adobe restaurant or El Adobe restaurant? But at any rate, it used to be on the property behind there, and it got moved and restored, and it's now a nice little history museum down in San Juan Capistrano. And the story was that Old Man Garcia used to like to sit out and watch the trains go by and wave to people. Just kind of one of those little weird facts of history. We all know the Anaheim Packing House, I'm sure. I actually became familiar with it through the Slice of Orange project that Chris mentioned, because I was assigned to cover Anaheim, and the packing house had opened like 3 weeks before I went out shooting for the project. So I got to go in and tour around and take pictures and go crazy. And I just fell in love with this place. I thought it was fantastic. And I think that's kind of part of what led me to get involved with this project. The Santoro building in Santa Ana was put together by Frank Lansdowne, architect, in 1929. And while the building itself is huge, it covers like 2/3 of the city block. The reason I picked this particular image is the incredible Churrigueresque work over the doorway. If you're in Santa Ana, go just ogle this thing. It's wonderful. Founders Hall and Soka University in Aliso Viejo, again, it's not old. It was, only opened to the East Coast. And it's one of the only buildings in this style in Orange County. San Clemente Beach Club, again, Courtesy, our architectural photographer who flies his drone over lots of things. And I kind of like, and I have to agree, they describe this as typifying Ole Hansen's vision of a beautiful city on the ocean where the whole city will be a park. And he hired architects to develop this Mission Revival, Spanish Revival style and make sure that it was applied to so many different, of the original buildings. As I understand it, they've loosened up the codes a little bit on new structures, but for a long time it was you do it this style or you don't do it. And every time we post this, I don't know how many different people I say, I almost drowned in that pool. Now, I chose the Great Stone Church to feature in our book on Orange County, more because it's everybody knows the other facets of the mission, but they don't realize that this thing was huge. I think one source I read called it the Acropolis of California. And it was visible for miles, and it took years and years and years to build, and it lasted exactly 6 years. Yeah. And you just kind of, well, okay. The Seal Beach City Hall is on the city register. Anybody that's familiar with Seal Beach knows where City Hall is. But actually, the original City Hall are these three pieces here. All of this stuff was added on later. And this is the historic bit of City Hall. At the time it was built, it was the largest municipal building in Seal Beach. Bradford House up in Placentia was built by basically the founding father of Placentia in 1902. It's kind of a neat transition house architecturally because it's got the veranda going around it, which was kind of a holdover from Victorian, in particular Queen Anne style, but it's almost blocky, which kind of presages the Craftsman style for anybody here that cares about architectural details. Casa Romanica, obviously before the cliff fell out. John was busy down in San Clemente with his drone. But the great thing about this shot is that you actually get to see how big the whole house is. And it's really, the other thing about it is that Ole Hansen had to move out not too long after he moved in, just because he overextended himself. So he didn't even get to enjoy his home for that long. The engineering tower at UCI in Irvine, William Pereira is probably one of the most prolific architects in Orange County. At least he's got a huge footprint. And it's kind of a cross between brutalism and modernist. But he included 12 different buildings in the plans for UCI. There's a great big circle if you've ever walked on campus. And he planned 12 of the buildings around that circle originally. And some of them he didn't actually do the full architectural thing on. This was one of them. Now there's the sociology building, which was used in Planet of the Apes. But this made me fall in love with William Pereira. And Segerstrom Center for the Arts, another cultural landmark, obviously taken before Aguirre's Plaza was put in place. It's just a nice picture. The Googie icon that is the Anaheim Convention Center. I have always loved this thing. I worked like crazy to remove some lady in a bright red sweatshirt who is standing right here. because I really wanted that thing to stand by itself. But this opened in 1967. If I remember right, I think it was a Jefferson Airplane who played there first. St. John Vianney Chapel on Balboa Island is right on Main Street. It's tiny, tiny little chapel. It's wonderful. Unfortunately, the time of day I went to visit, the light was bad, but there's a Sheets mural, mosaic, up over the front door outside that is terrific. But it's just, when I walked inside, it was, wow, this is great. They built this tiny little chapel when tourism was picking up on Balboa Island, because the only other Catholic church had to take the ferry over and then travel up the peninsula like a mile and a half to go to church. So they did this for the convenience of summer visitors. And maybe a soon to not be a landmark, the Chet Holyfield Federal Building. And the amazing thing about this is that it really wasn't a federal building. It wasn't built as a federal building. It was built as a manufacturing site. North American Aviation, I think. But at any rate, the part of the problem, whenever we post this, people go on and on about it being so dark and so on. That's because particularly the bottom two floors have no windows, because that's where they're going to put all the machinery. Who needs to look out when you've got machines running? Huntington Beach Library is another wonderful architectural landmark. Also an educational landmark if you have that bent. The team of Richard Neutra and his son Don Neutra. Richard Neutra did the Tower of Hope at the Crystal Cathedral. And I hadn't walked around the library a lot, but if you haven't, I really recommend just going and enjoying it. There's a couple of spots where you've got 2.5 floors of windows out in front of you with a view out into the park, and it really is a lovely building. And of course, if you're going to do Orange County landmarks, you've got to throw in Walter Knott's Dream House. But this is the wonderful thing about this is that it is a brick by brick reproduction to scale. So it's pretty phenomenal in that regard. And we'll let the sun set on Dana Harbor with a shot of another ex-landmark, the Pilgrim. So there it is. Happy SoCal holidays, everyone. Well, I just wanted to say that, we do these books, and I happen to bring a couple with me if you want to look at them. But I told Chris he could have these, and he said, well, we'll put one in our archives, and then we'll auction one off later on. And I'd really like to see this, at least bring in a couple of bucks for the club. And I've also put some of my business cards in here. We don't stock the books; they're print on demand. So there's some business cards if you'd like to go visit the website. On the right side of every single page, there's a great big thing about all our books and how you can go order them. So thank you very much.
Would you like to take any questions or?
Oh, sure.
A lot of things start with a sh
if
sound.
There are any. If anybody's got any. Yes.
Down from the Independence Hall is Hobby City. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Like a White House.
Yeah. Actually, the White House is also in the project. We've documented it for the project. I think it's a 2/3 scale replica of just the front of the White House, as in the White House in Washington, D.C. Not to be confused with the other White House in Anaheim that's a restaurant.
How many landmarks did you identify in SoCal?
Have we? Oh, you know, I can't answer that question because we keep finding new ones every time we go to research. A lot of, I think the general modus operandi for all of the contributing photographers, should I be using a mic or are you okay with this? The modus operandi basically is, hey, I want to go here, what's in that area? One of our photographers likes to go hit the National Register of Historic Places and find 3 or 4 that he can get in a day type of thing. John Baer, who's our architectural photographer, if he's got a job going out of town, he'll say, well, I've got a job here, so what can I go catch before or after the job? So it's, and I kind of do the same thing, you know, except I use Google Maps, you know, and I look at, they mark things with a little historic place icon, and that's how I start. But then I also go out and I visit city registers, preservation societies, LA and Santa Monica Conservancy. There's so many different sources. So honestly, I can't answer your question. All I know is that, you know, I had quit counting at 600 landmarks, and I know we've barely scratched the surface. Sir?
Over in Fountain Valley, there's a little church. It used to be called Gospel Swamp. Does that qualify as a
I'm not familiar with it, but I'll certainly look it up.
Greenville Church, which is the one that's competing with the Yorba Linda Church for oldest standing church in the county. It's, what is that off of Cedar Street? It's just west of Harbor, or east of Harbor Boulevard.
Okay, what was the name of that again?
Gospel Swamp?
It's a Greenville Country Church. Is
Greenville?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to look into that.
It's a small thing. Maybe compare with the Santa Monica Capistrano at all.
Anything? Let's go with, I saw her first. Sorry.
Have you been to, it was originally the First Baptist Church in downtown?
I'm sorry, I'm a little hard of hearing.
Oh, sorry. First Baptist Church was originally in downtown Huntington Beach on 7th or something. It was built in 1904.
Okay.
My great-grandfather and my grandfather helped build it.
You're,
My grandfather went to that. It's been a couple of other churches now, so it doesn't have that name. And there's a stained glass window in there that's supposed to have been dedicated to my grandfather.
okay, because we've documented a small church that is supposed to at least be the oldest church in Huntington Beach. And we might be talking about the same thing. It's a little white church.
Yeah?
Yeah.
On the corner, I know exactly where it is. I just think it should be one that would be added.
Yeah, well, we've done 600 of these, and I lose track of which is where and what. You know, I don't put these things on a hierarchy really. But if somebody brings something like that up, I go back and I look and well, what did we say? And you know, okay.
Have you ever used the ferry between Balboa Island and the peninsula?
Actually, we just reposted that in our 31 Days of Transportation series. So yeah, it's been documented 3 times. Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, there's this whole thing going on about the, you know, they're having to convert the engines, and so on. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Hopefully they'll work something out. Sir?
Involving the 10 Southern California counties you're talking about, do you have teams operating in each county developing their own group of photos of landmarks?
No, everything comes through me. I'm the tech team for this project.
So you're going to get everything shot in the next couple of weeks?
So we do have contributing photographers, you know, and we don't have one in every, or we don't have several in every county, but we have a lot of them who like to go out and travel quite a bit. I mean, I've made trips up to San Luis Obispo and Solvang and Santa Barbara, and I spent a night in Glendale one night just so I could go out and get some stuff with the morning light, that type of thing. There's a number of us that do that, but eventually it all funnels down through me. Sir?
I'm just curious, do you have anything from Imperial County?
Well, the last thing we posted was the Calexico Carnegie Library. And there's a couple of things from Bombay Beach, and we've just got a new contribution from a new photographer who did some stuff around the Salton Sea. So there's not a lot down there, but we've got a couple. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have, let's say, an option for people to recommend or nominate some of these landmarks on your webpage?
We've got to contact us, and we've had numerous people contact us and say, have you done this, have you done that? And the longer we go, the more emails I get. Suggestions are always welcome.
What's the most unique or one of your favorites that you've done?
Oh my. I would have to say the Hayden Tract up in Culver City is an architectural wonderland. And my wife and I were just up there recently. And I don't know, you've probably seen the Wrapper Building. Now that's kind of sitting off to one side, but the architect Eric Owen Moss did that. But before that, he helped, I don't remember their names, but a couple who wanted to redevelop this rundown industrial area of Culver City. And he did some incredible architecture. I mean, it's all very modernist architecture, and you really kind of got to be into it. But as far as unique, I find it hard to top that. Sir, you have another one?
No, I was just as a joke, have you ever found anything worth photographing out in Blythe?
Blythe. I haven't been through Blythe since we started the project, so no, I haven't found anything.
There is a historical building out there on top of the bluff that my father was stationed at during the war. It's still standing. It's like a Quonset hut. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of still buildings where the soldiers stayed.
Yeah.
So it's out there.
Yeah, a lot of these things, unfortunately, are, you know, you've got to be there at the right time of day, and a lot of them are locked down. And if that was a military installation at one point, it's quite possible there's still a fence around it protecting it, you know, which makes access difficult. We run into access problems quite often, actually. That's what drones are for, right? Yes, ma'am.
I take it you primarily focus on buildings and bridges and larger structures. You do not focus on homes.
Oh yeah, we've matter of fact, one of our 31 days features was Victorian architecture. They're all homes, and I would say about a third of the Art Deco structures that we featured in that series were homes. So yeah, we do a lot of homes.
What is the name of your website?
SoCalLandmarks.com.
Oh, okay, that's easy.
Plain and easy.
So can we buy your books on that site?
Yes. Yeah, you can. There's links on the site to go out to. We use a print-on-demand company, and there's links on the website to the page. And just even if you're not wondering, we've got these priced so that with tax and shipping they come out to about $20. So they're like your poor man's coffee table book. Sure appreciate your support. So again, happy holidays.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was great, Andy. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Andy. That was fantastic. It's an amazing project, and yeah, I envy you being able to do that. I mean, I would love to be rattling all over the the county doing that all the time. That sounds awesome. There's a few other quick mentions here at the end. As for our books, the Society's books, we have a whole bunch at the back table. There may be some titles you haven't seen before. We've got some in rotation that haven't been available. So do go check back there at the orange table with Aida for either books or your membership. For non-members, we have a recommended $5 donation. That just kind of helps defray our cost for renting the space and putting on some of the programs. So we appreciate those who do. And then also wanted to thank, I should thank always, Phil and Irene Chin for bringing the cookies and goodies and refreshments, as they always do. And I also wanted to thank, this time in particular, I wanted to thank Bill Ward for bringing the largest Whitman sampler I have seen since the last time he brought a giant Whitman sampler at the holidays. So with that, also, by the way, on your way out this evening, do remember, if you're a member, take your name tag off and drop it in the bag by the door there. We appreciate that. We won't have to replace it for you. So thank you all for coming tonight, and we hope to see you next month. And do help yourself to those goodies, the aforementioned goodies in the back. And happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll see you soon.